Welcome to the Human Experience.
Hello, friends of the Earth. Welcome to the Human Experience. I am your host, Human, and this, of course, is Juice. It's good to see you again. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your phone or into your home or wherever you are viewing this new podcast for this week. I am so excited to tell you that this week I had the pleasure and honor of interviewing my good friend Matt Locke. And today I would love to present Matt Locke to you, the world, to humanity. Matt is one of my longtime friends. I absolutely adore the man. I've known him for 13 years, something like that now. We met on my birthday on the first day of school when I went to Big Boy College or whatever you want to call it in San Francisco. And you know what? I consider myself a collector of fine individuals, and Matt has been around all of this time for good reason because he's wonderful. So, thank you for being here. Thank you for your attention. I would love to introduce you to my friend Matt Locke. He is a world builder. He is a champion all around. He's an amazing chef in the kitchen. And so he is so many more things, and I will not waste a moment more of your time setting up this interview because I think Matt can speak for himself and you can see what a fascinating individual he is, how beautiful his creative spirit is, and just what a joy he is to talk to. So without further ado, I introduce to you my friend Matt Locke. Mr. Matt Locke, welcome to the Human Experience podcast. It is such a pleasure and an honor to see you, my brother. I haven't seen you in so long. You are one of my best friends in this world forever. A former roommate, one of the best roommates I ever had with our buddy Jordan. Dude, I think you are one of the most fascinating people I've ever met, and I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Please tell me what is going on in your world right now, man.
Yeah, man. So I am just living. I'm doing a lot more experimenting with things I'm interested in. I think I've always like leaned into my interest, and now I'm, leaning even harder into my interest. I'm like working on a TV show. I'm building tech projects and, just living as to the best that I can be.
What kind of TV show are you working on? That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I'm working on a pilot for a show around 90s Seattle, like during the grunge boom, but
Cool.
it's around a group of BIPOC like kids like from Seattle. So like, if you think about grunge at the time in the early 90s in Seattle, it was just like, it was starting to blow up, but it was like the music genre for the outcast. So this show is really about the outcast of outcasts, right? Like, if you look at Seattle grunge at that time, it's like predominantly white. However, being from Seattle myself and being interested in alternative and grunge music, I just didn't see much people like myself. However, I do know that there were people of color that were interested in this genre. And yeah, it's just a show about that and like the coming of age of being first generation immigrants in a new country while also like trying to acclimate to Americanness while also being an immigrant. So
That's amazing, man. It seems like the perfect time to be leaning into things like that where, I guess my question about that is, how did you find yourself chasing this project down and just deciding like, this is something that I'm going to do? Did you feel a calling? Did someone else propose it to you? Or did you just say like, yeah,
yeah, us. Sorry.
I'm learning how to interview here. So thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's always, so when I first went to college, I really wanted to go to film school. And, I think one of the issues with like early 2000s, late to mid 2000s, there weren't really much stories about like the Asian experience and and the ethnic experience around American culture. And I think for me, it was just always a story that I wanted to tell. And yeah, so I pitched one of my friends who is working in the industry now, and he was just like, this is awesome, we should totally run with it. And so I've just been working on it as like kind of like a side thing that I wake up in the morning and I start like kind of putting more ideas to it. And yeah, so we're just kind of seeing where it goes.
That's amazing, man. I'm so excited to hear more about this. I mean, my brother Preston has been in LA for over a decade working on acting stuff. And so selfishly, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he could play someone in the future. But no, that is so exciting, dude. I've always seen you as a builder, a world builder. You're always working on something that has the potential to change the world. And it's it's inspiring to hear where, at least to know from knowing you for so long, where that has been versus how it sounds like you're evolving. Can you tell us some of your story? Just, we've known each other 13 years now, something like that. Um, no, longer than that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us, I've known you for 13 years plus, and you have always been someone with ambition and drive. Where does that come from? What causes you to look at the world and say, like, if I add myself to this, I can make it even more beautiful? Because that's what I like to do. What's your motivator?
um I'm not sure what my motivators are. I mean, I'm just really interested, I think. I'm constantly wanting to learn. I've like, growing up, I didn't really think of myself as much of a learner, but like now I just have like this deep thirst for like knowledge and learning where my potentials are. And constantly stretching that. I think, with the thought of like possibly having kids someday and everything like that, it's just like, how do I want to show up for my future generations? And I think that's like the constant push for me, where it's like, where are my interests? And like, how can I stretch myself towards those interests? And I think, most of my life has always been around this gravitational pull towards my interest. But as I've gotten older, I've gained more confidence in that, right? Like when I was younger, I was just like, oh, like why me kind of thing. And then as I gotten older and gotten into a practice, it's like more like why not me? And yeah, so that's I think that's how I approach it.
That's amazing. I mean, you said what you said about wanting to learn. I had to scribble it down so I didn't move beyond that, because I think I know a lot of people that feel that way, and I know a lot of people that don't feel that way. And I guess that's kind of a theme in life where you either want to learn and you want to grow and you face it with a willingness, or you want to be comfortable and have life just kind of happen in a way that doesn't hurt so much. Because
Mm.
sometimes when you want to learn, learning can be difficult. And so I'm wondering, like, is there anything in the past few years that was a difficult lesson that you experienced, that you had to move through like a gateway to get to the other side, where you're thinking like, man, I want to learn, but this is really kicking me right in the face right now. This hurts, but I got to keep going. Is there anything that sticks out?
Yeah, I struggled with a bout of depression for a short while, like in like the 2017s. I think like I had just started I was trying to start a tech company, and I was struggling pretty hard. But then I also, had like I had gotten back from traveling around the world. So I spent like 2 years traveling abroad, working on like innovation around the world. And I didn't realize how much weight that I was still holding on to after the fact. And a lot of people don't tell you that like entrepreneurship is like a mental game. And my mental game was just not not I didn't have a good foundation. And so like shortly after my company closing down my company, I went through like a really big bout of depression because I just was like, I don't think I'm good at X, Y, and Z. And there was this constant like struggle of like, how good am I? Or like, what can I do? Like, what are my skills? And, being in like, I think in our culture, just like this capitalistic like structure of like, what value do you bring? I was struggling really hard with that. And after, having to close down my company, I, um, I really was just like, I don't know like where my like what it does it like it was just a very big blur. And and so like I went to therapy. I started doing practicing meditation, and slowly got out of it. And it took a lot of time, but that was probably the hardest thing that I had to deal with, because it was just like, a lot of it is just internal, and you have to deal with those internal demons to be able to like get past them, or just like know that they're there, but know how to like um interact with them, you could say.
I think of those as what I call bats in the cave.
Mm-hmm.
And you walk into the cave, you're looking around and there's bats hanging all over and they're scary. So you want to look away and cover yourself and but if you just look them in the eye, they fly out of the cave. And what you said about the mental game of entrepreneurship, I completely understand. And I'm really honored to hear you talk about how you pulled yourself out of it. And it sounds like what you're describing is a change of your mind. You changed your mind and decided, like, I am not all those things. I am this. I am me. Is that like, was there a definitive moment that changed for you? What was the cataclysm where you went from looking at things from a point of feeling lack to the abundance that you now seem to express in, it takes a lot of confidence to work on anything related to film. It takes a lot of confidence to drive anything forward. That is a very masculine trait. Pushing, driving, penetrating forward, building and progressing, where like the feminine side nurtures and wants to help make sure that things maintain. And so in today's world, I think there are a lot of other men that are looking at the world and trying to find the confidence within themselves that you found to say, like, no, I can do it. And so I guess, yeah, my long-winded question is, was there a definitive moment where you just had like this aha and it clicked and you're like, no, I am smart. I am a good entrepreneur. I can come up with a good idea and I'm going to try again.
um I don't know if there was like a definitive moment, I could say. I just think that for me, it's just something I gravitate to. And I used to like hold a lot of like value in the fact that like I want to be X, versus just like wanting to like do the thing every day to get to like whatever destination it has in store, right? Because I think like, tomorrow isn't really defined. It's kind of defined by the way that you live on the day to day, and building like your value system, building like how do you want to show up in your day to day. And I think that was really it for me, on like how do I show up again. I just started really working on myself. Like I meditate every day. I try to go to the gym every morning. I wake up at 5 a.m. Most days, so that I have enough time. Um, yeah, so I've really gone around like how do I structure the things that I want to achieve, and essentially add that to my life. And I'm not saying that like it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. I'm just making sure that like my day to day is set up in a way that I can slowly get to the destinations that I'd like to get to, whether that be, X amount of years from now, or like, a stroke of luck.
Right. So can I ask, do you have a morning routine, a daily practice? I know there's a lot of talk on YouTube and in the world right now of having a morning routine, having a set routine that you start your day for structure with, to make sure that you are walking into the day with the right attitude
Yeah.
in both of these places. Can you tell us, like, what does your morning routine look like?
Yeah, so I don't wake up with an alarm. I probably stopped using alarm maybe 2, 3 years ago. But I pretty much wake up around like 5-ish. And when I wake up at around 5-ish, I usually go to my living room, turn on a very soft light, and go into like a 20-minute meditation. And then after the 20-minute meditation, I'll either like study Japanese or like study something for a little bit, um, and then go to the gym. And I go to the gym for like 30 to something minutes, and then come back. And then I'll have enough time before work to like work on anything that I'm interested in. And so I spend that time like just like, gravitating towards like what I'm interested in. And then by the time my wife and dog wake up, we'll just go on a walk, and then the day started for work, right? And on the weekends, I try to wake up as early as I can. I'm a pretty early riser. Like on the weekends, I wake up around like 6:37 without an alarm, and then yeah, I still go into my meditation. I usually don't work out as much on the weekends unless like I felt that like the week I didn't really get the best workout in. So I'll just like try to go and like do some cardio or something like that. But yeah, I mean, like ever since I started waking up at 5, I felt that I had more capable, like I had more time to be capable of the things I wanted to be capable of. And
Mm.
it's just like the practice of getting into like what are those interests, the things that interest me.
I think that probably comes from that structure, that structure where you wake up and there isn't that time spent going, okay, what am I going to do now? You wake up and you already know what you're going to do. You meditate and you do the rest of your routine, and then you cap it off with a beautiful walk with your wife. And that, I aspire to that, brother. And I can't wait for that. I'm honored that I get to hear how beautiful your life has become. Um, that's so cool. Well, I would love to talk more about the gym and how it relates to the rest of your work. Are you open to that?
Sure.
So I too, I mean, you know me, I've come from a place where I used to be a real big boy. The gym is something that has changed my life. And I have noticed that the more dedication I give to building my body, the more I feel my mind straighten out and just focus. If I can focus on crushing myself doing something that physically hurts, then I can focus harder on crushing myself doing something that might not, my mental might not be where it needs to be yet. And so I've just found, going to the gym, working out, pushing my body has allowed me to push myself into places that used to terrify me, like onto YouTube, showing my face to the world. It took me a long time to feel confident and comfortable enough to do this in this way. And so I'm so happy that you're here and we get to talk about this. Have you experienced a similar thing where, like, as you work out more, how has your life changed? Because, yeah, you change physically, but you change more than just physically.
Yeah, I think there's a mental thing that changes as well. I mean, like a lot of the things that we tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or like we shouldn't do X, Y, and Z because like no one's going to care about it or anything like that, is usually just like your inner critic, right? And I struggle with this every morning. Like even to this day, I've been working out for almost like a year every morning, right? And I still wake up every morning and just being like, maybe not today, or like, I don't want to go today, or it's like, okay, I just like won't go today, and I'll just like, make it up on the weekends. And and for the most part, I haven't, that voice hasn't won. Unless like I don't drink much anymore too, which has gave me back a lot of power, I would say. Because like usually when I wake up and I'm like a little sluggish in the morning, I'm like, okay, I'll take the break.
Mhm.
But like I'd never wake up sluggish as much anymore. I probably drank like maybe six times last year, and I've drank maybe like two times this year. And yeah, it's just like I think it's this mental game that, or a mental hurdle that you have to like hear that voice and be like, okay, is that the voice that I want to listen to? And if not, like how do you like combat it and like really just take it on head first? And like sometimes sure there's going to be critics, but like usually you are your worst critic. So you just have to like silence that as much as you can.
Do you have any mechanisms, like mental mechanisms that you employ to do that? How do you push past? Because what I hear, right, is you wake up and you're like, I know what I need to do today, but man, I don't want to do it right now. So you wake up and you meet your resistance. How do you push through it?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, like for the gym, I'm usually like, all right, let's just go. If it's like really painful, then we'll just like, do a short one, right? And usually I don't do it, like I don't like skip out, right? Like I'll go and do everything. I might skip cardio, is like the thing, because I'll work out before I do cardio, just
Yeah.
finish off with cardio. But a lot of that is just like, let's just do it. Like even like my projects outside of work, right? Like I'll wake up some days and just be like, oh, I don't really want to work on that thing today. But then I'm like, all right, let's just open the computer and like see what we can get out. And it's usually just like I give myself an out, but I always ask myself to like, let's just try it. Right. And if you get into that mode of like, all right, I hear what I'm saying to myself, but let's just like push past it to see if like I can do at least a little bit. And usually I get a better outcome that way. And I think like I've set myself up mentally where that's more often than not now, where it's like I'm not usually giving up on myself. Um, and I think that thing that compounds, because now you start like you see it like in these like moments of weakness, and you're able to be like, all right, I see that, but I don't want to listen to that. And it gets easier, right? Where it's like if you let it like it's kind of like waking, I think like waking up early every morning was like the hardest thing that I had to do, because it was like so easy to just be like, 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, an hour. I don't have to wake up yet because I don't have to like go to work for another like 5 hours, right? And so it was always like pushing that off and snoozing that off. But now since I'm able to conquer that like right away in the morning, it just makes it easier to conquer other things. And I think that's like when you're able to beat that voice inside your head, it gets easier to beat it.
Mm. I heard this thing recently, and I've thought about it every day since then, about momentum.
Mhm.
On momentum, you are most likely to do what you just did. And so when we wake up in the morning and we allow that resistance to win, then that builds momentum. And then the next morning we wake up and it's going to be even harder to cross that barrier, because we're like, oh, but yesterday felt so good not having to do the thing, right? But
Yeah.
then, you push past it. The story I tell myself is 5 minutes. You don't want to write, you have to write for 5 minutes every day at least. But that 5 minutes is never 5 minutes unless I really just am needing a day to really just kind of detach a little bit and just breathe on the floor with the dog and whatever. The 5 minute thing has really helped me to push past that resistance as well. Because everything that you're saying, dude, I'm just like in awe, because I'm like, yeah, this is the life of an entrepreneur. You're so on it, man. And the mental game is the most important game, I think, in all of life. And so, you know, if you use your entrepreneurial spirit and then you apply that same attitude to anything in life, like sooner or later you start to realize like I can do anything that I want to. And I think that's where a lot of folks tend to get caught up, is pushing past that resistance. So it's really cool to hear you talk about how you do it, because I have my ways of doing it. And every once in a while, we're all human beings. Sometimes the resistance is more than I'm willing to handle for that day, and I don't do it. And then I have to fight it a little harder the next day. But for me, I used to beat myself up about those so badly and talk to myself, you're fucking idiot, loser. I can't believe that you didn't do the thing, whatever. And I guess I just got to a point within the last couple of years where it's like, hey, me, why are you beating yourself up? Because I feel like you're hurting yourself. And one of the things that I've done a lot of in the last couple of years is actually go stand in the mirror and look into my own eyes and have a conversation with myself and just be like, you are doing better than you think you are in this moment. And I love you, dude. I love you. You know I do. But there are aspects of you that seem like they don't love yourself. And what is that? Because the total picture, you know you love yourself, but this little thing is making you kind of hurt enough that you want to just get away from it. How can you feel comfortable to dive straight into yourself to get what you know you need to do done? And I've found miraculous results from just like learning how to talk to myself. And it all culminated into an experience that happened really recently where it was like, I'm getting the chills just thinking about it, like literally getting goosebumps on my arms. I don't know if you can see, but holy cow, dude. It was like all of a sudden I just believed it in one moment. Like, all of this time and practice came to a head and it was like, okay, let's go. And it just clicked. And so I'm wondering, like, have you had a moment like that where everything just clicked, or has it been a smooth process?
I wouldn't say smooth at all. I think it's this constant push and pull. I don't do enough of like the self talk and like talking to myself in the mirror. My wife actually does that a lot. And she's always telling me that you should do it more often because it's really, because I do get into these like holes sometimes of like, feeling that like I'm struggling like X, Y, and Z, and like maybe I don't have like the skills to do X, Y, and Z. But I usually just like try to break through it. And it's like maybe I don't have the skills, but I'm just gonna keep on learning and keep on. I think that's where I'm just like, it's if I take it from a mindset that like I can always get better by learning more, and then just practicing more. I think like you'll get to a point where like you feel more confident. I think in therapy they have this thing called like parts work, where it's just like you have different parts of you that you learn about yourself as you grow, and like like perhaps like the defeatist voice is actually a child that's scared inside of you, that was like someone had told that child that they weren't good enough, or that like there wasn't going to be anyone to support them. And so when I was doing therapy, my therapist would always just tell me to like talk to the child with like your adult, like the adult in the room, and be like, I'm here for you, like I'll take care of you, like you don't have to worry. And so like I do have those like voices inside my head, but like I do feel that like I am so lost in just progression that I just like sometimes don't really listen to it as much, just because I'm like drowned it, like I drown it out by like productivity, you could say. But like I'm human, so like there are moments where I'm just like, oh, maybe I'm not working hard enough, or maybe I'm not doing this enough, or maybe I'm not doing that enough, or maybe I'm not not where I want to be, and things like that. So but it's hard. I think it's like it's just this constant work. It's constant work of like understanding where it's coming from, and then being like, no, like it's not real, and then like break through it.
Right. The constant work thing has been a theme in my life too, where I guess for a period of time, I kind of approached some work that I was doing with almost a victim mentality of like, oh, why does it always have to be me that does all this stuff? And then one day I was just like, all right, I'm not helping myself at all by telling myself the story of why does it have to be me? I too have the same idea that I want to learn. And so, how aren't I contradicting myself that I want to learn, but why me at the same time? And
Mhm.
so, I guess, like, give it to me, baby. Give it to me. I'll take it and I'll learn from it. And I think that, like, it all comes back to that wanting to learn. If you feel like you have it all figured out, life doesn't feel as magical. But if you're willing to just be like, hey, at any given time, I could find out and be verified that everything I believe is not real, everything I was wrong. If you really want to learn, then that's an okay possibility. And that's just another gateway to walk through. But I think that that is a really scary gateway. And I think that's something that potentially our world is facing right now, where we're all part of consciousness. We're all like computers on the network of consciousness, which is why I think those hours between like 4 to 6 a.m. is like God hours for creatives, because
Mhm.
there's just less nodes on the network and there's just more bandwidth to kind of like pull inspiration from. And I think a lot of people right now are starting to realize that the stories they've been telling themselves about who they are and what they're capable of might be more limited than they thought. And going through that is not easy. Healing is a messy process. And the way I'll relate to this, I had a conversation with my mother yesterday, and I asked her some questions, and it ended up leading to her telling me the story of my birth when she gave birth
Oh.
to me. And we were talking about polarity and like positive, negative. And she's like, it's the wildest thing how like I'm pushing, pushing, pushing. I'm in the most pain that I've ever been in. And then as soon as you popped out and I saw you, I was consumed with a joy that I've never known anything greater than. And isn't that beautiful that it's both things. It's not just the joy, it's also the pain that goes into it. And I think
Mhm.
collectively we're starting to learn that it's not just about the joy, it's
Yeah.
about balance. And I think that a lot of people say they want to be happy, but perhaps what they're really seeking is balance. And, when you have the attitude that you do, in my opinion at least, it means that, you become a thought leader when more and more people start to ask themselves the tough questions, and they come to you and they say, Matt, how did you do it? And you get the honor of sharing your story with them and telling them how you push past resistance, how you're always open to learning and these things. And that gives people permission that they're looking for to do the thing. And so I'm wondering, in your life right now, do you have people around you that are now doing things because you guys sat, or they looked at you and they said, if Matt can do it, I can do it? Have you started to feel like, as you've dived farther into your mentality, how has your world and the people around you changed with your openness for life and experience? Does that make sense as a question?
Yes, I think. I mean, I don't know if like I mean, I live in a new city, and I've met new people, and I'm constantly meeting new people, and um, yeah, I mean, outside of that, like, I don't know from like my like personal community if anyone's like really changed or anything like that. Like, I don't really also go out and talk about these things, right? Like, like I do talk to like my wife and like my family members about like pushing past resistance and like framing things in a way that like is beneficial for you. But like I don't really I don't tweet about these things either, right? So it's a lot of like just personal stuff. But I do think that the people I hang out with today are a little bit different than they were like growing up or things like that, just because I'm in a different city, right? Like, and so, and I think that's mainly it. But I don't know if any of the stuff that I've spoke with like my friends or community or things like that have affected their lives, because they haven't said anything to me. So maybe it has, but maybe it hasn't, because like I said earlier, like I don't really just like talk about these things with people.
Yeah. Well, talking is one thing anyway, right? And ultimately, I think we can only really lead by experience. And I asked that question because I wanted to share with you how I don't think I would be on the path that I'm on in life if I hadn't been your roommate a long time ago. And when you and I were roommates, I was a different human being. Like, I'm still the same guy, but that guy is dead, and I killed him because I didn't he wasn't 100% me yet. And I was so scared. He was so scared of his own shadow. But then he got to live with a guy like you who is just like, oh, here's this new company called Lyft that there's only the CEO and the COO or whatever doing, and they need some guy to come help them drive cars right now around San Francisco. And that was you. And you, I don't know. I remember those days like it was yesterday, because I was like, this guy is freaking crazy. He's like gonna go just drive a car around the city on an app that doesn't even exist properly yet. How are you gonna make money for rent? Like, whatever. And you're just like, oh no, this is what I'm doing now. And like, your attitude inspired me so much, man. And it still took me years after that to even take a leap of faith in myself to go into business for myself. And that was just the thing that, like, I had so much fear, but then when it really came time to do it, I literally told myself, like, dude, if Matt can do it, you can do it. Like, follow the leader. And so I thank you, man, because I changed through your presence. And you know sometimes the people around you, like, you don't say anything about it, are looking at you as their role model, and you wouldn't even know it. And so, like, I think, that brings me to a place of belief that when you have the spirit and the attitude that you have for life, always wanting to learn, you become a role model in a way that maybe you don't even understand. And then your candor from that point forward is your currency. And other people are always looking at you and always thinking, like, damn, how can I be more like that guy? And so, I thank you for being you, because you were a person who gave me permission to be me. And I don't know if I could ever say thank you enough for that. So thank you, because I think you probably have more of an effect on the people around you than maybe you're aware of.
Yeah, I definitely didn't know that. So thank you for saying that. I really, yeah, I mean, that means a lot. But you're probably right. Like the way that you show up in the world definitely does affect other people, especially if they are struggling with something in their own lives, right? And just being so close to it, you're constantly like learning from other people, and if you're open to it. And so, like obviously when we lived together, I didn't think like that, right? I just thought that I was like, these are the things
YOLO!
that these are the things, and but I think like that's one thing in my life has always just been like gravitating towards my interest, and sometimes just like not knowing what's on the other side. And like some would say it's naivete, but it's worked out so far.
I'm right there with you, man. And
Yeah.
I do the same thing. When something really piques my interest, I dive right in and I give it everything. And then when I either find out like, okay, this is going to be something I do for a long time, or I just drop it and move on to the next thing. But mean, for me, that attitude has translated into building the skills to completely self-produce a thing like this, from the audio to the video to whatever. It just like all of these things I started to learn separately. And then when it came time, I felt this feeling like, okay, I have to step my presentation up, and I have to be more genuine in order to connect with people in the way that I truly want to connect with people. Came with a lot of fear, but then it also came with the confidence of like, well, I know how to do all these things. What am I afraid of? And then once I realized what I was afraid of, I turned on the camera and said, let's talk. So
Yeah.
I'm really, really glad that we get to do this. And how special it is to know that, like, I think all human beings are experiencing this at some level. Like, we are all united by common ground, and the world works very diligently to make us forget the common ground that we really do share. And that's the purpose of this project, calling it the human experience. That's what we're living, baby. And we each have an opportunity to rise within ourselves, to discover that which makes us feel balance and peace, and to touch the hearts of other people who are a couple steps back and want to keep walking home with us. So it's really cool to hear how you've evolved over time, because you have always been a good dude with a good head on your shoulders, and seeing you for the first time in a few years today has just brought me so much joy, dude.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, it's seemingly like yesterday when I went to go say hi to you in the sunset before you're packing your bike to go across the, go to New York, right? The bike to New York, and to see where you were and to where you're at now. It's like a beautiful human experience that you're living, and it's like so cool that I get that I got to see like vignettes of it, and to see you where you're at now and like how you're glowing now. It's really awesome.
I appreciate that, brother. And can I have your permission? I have pictures from that day that you guys came to my tiny shoebox and we were all in the backyard saying, can I put that up right now?
Yeah.
Okay, there's the picture right there, baby. This picture is from that day that Matt and his family came to visit before I went on a big adventure. And that's Gary the dog, some of my favorite people in the world right here. I look at this picture all the time, Matt. I'm not
really?
kidding you. I look at it probably like 2 times a month just to remind myself that like people care. Because you guys came, that was a whole experience for me. It was really hard to leave San Francisco, to leave home, but I knew what I had to do. And having you guys come to set me off really made me feel good, because, entrepreneurial spirit, adventurous spirit, whatever, we're all still human beings, and we all still want to be loved. We want to know that we're supported. And when you feel like you're completely alone in a vacuum, like it can feel sometimes when you're out in the middle of nowhere, riding a bicycle, getting crushed by sunburns because
the elements
didn't approach it right with your gut health. You can feel like an island, and we're all here together for a reason, to serve as reflections, to show each other the way. And so I really thank you guys for being there for me during that time and helping me send off like that. And I'm glad to share the picture because I look at it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember you saying that you were going to do that. And I remember that like you were talking about like how you had just like that you had been training for this moment without even realizing that you were training for this moment, because you during the pandemic you were just riding your bike like almost every day, like all over the place, right? And it's kind of interesting how it goes back to what I think we were saying earlier, right? Like you put yourself in motion without realizing you're putting yourself in motion by just doing the things that are so natural to you, and the call of adventure comes, and you either decide to answer that call or silence it. And I think a lot of the times we rather silence it because we just don't know what's on the other side. And so so bravo to you for actually taking on the call of adventure and like, living your best Jack Kerouac lifestyle, and yeah, I mean, I think it's like there's always a call for adventure, and I think we're always better off making that call, even if we don't know what's going to be on the other side, right? Like, there's something something beautiful is going to come out of it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. And what you said about the like training without knowing what you're training for, that has become the basis of all of my training. And I train every day now, every single day. I do not take complete rest days of any kind anymore. In business, in the physical side of things, there's at least some sort of mobility on the physical side of things, even on rest days. And then on business, there's some sort of creation happening, even on days that I'm tired. And I'm wondering, like, do you feel that way too? Like, do you feel like you're training for something that you don't quite know what it is yet at all in your life?
I don't know if I would call it training, but like it's just I realized that I was talking to someone the other day. Excuse me, I was talking to someone about this the other day, where it's just like I think I know where my interests are, and I'm just leaning really hard into them and adding all the skills that I can within those interests. And so yeah, I guess it is training, but it's also just like doing at the same time, right? Like doing it because I'm enjoying it, doing it like the other day, last week, I'm trying to tweet more so I can like, talk about the experiences that I'm going through. And one of the things I wanted to do last week was just like build something for someone. And I had posted this question on Twitter is like, hey, like anyone interested, I'll build you this idea. And I've gotten really good at building things like the tech things, right? And I was like, oh, I bet you I can build an idea in a weekend. And so with that, like, no, like because I don't really have much of a followership, and like no one really knows who I am because I just never have been that person of putting myself out there. I was like, I'm just gonna build this thing, and I did it, and I just so happened to build it for a friend that like didn't even know that I was gonna do it for him, and I gave it to him, and it's just like this past week has been pretty awesome because he's been really like excited about what this thing could be, and I've just been helping along the way. And so like when we're talking about like have I been training for certain things, like I don't know if I call it training. It was just more like I wanted to learn these things, and I wanted to get better at these things, and I wanted to be able to like do these things when at a moment's notice and stretch myself every time I do it. Yeah, and so I think that's part of it, maybe, where it's just like these are my things that I'm interested in. I want to help people with it and see where it goes, kind of thing.
So I watched you do this. I know you've been building in public. You're using that, and you did this project. And from where I live, I watched you do it on Twitter. And then I was just looking, trying to find the tab, and I know I have it somewhere, but I'm trying to focus on this without looking for it. So I'll get a link from you if you're willing to share this project, because I clicked on it once you shared the results, and I went to the website and I started looking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's helpful stuff for me on here. And so I saved the tab and I started kind of playing around with it. Is it Mystic?
It's marketing tools you should know .com. You can just go to marketingtoolsyoushouldknow.com.
I have it open here now. And what I found in here, there's information about AI, analytics, copywriting, design, email, marketing. I went to the copywriting section and just started clicking around, and I was like, you did this in a weekend, man? This is impressive. But the thing that I noticed above and beyond all else was the response that this other person gave to you. And he said something on Twitter that this was the nicest thing that anyone has ever surprised him with. And I'm curious, like, how did that make you feel? How did that make
Oh,
your heart feel?
that was probably one of the best feelings that I've had this year, or like in recent memory. I didn't do it with anything in mind other than like this would be a fun thing. And funny enough, going into it, I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna like be offended that I even would think about this, or like, oh, like who am I to like do this, right? Or like, um, I was just more of like, and that probably was like more of insecurity of like, oh, because like I don't think I'm the best designer. I'm not the best like UX I think I'm pretty good, but I think like I still have a lot of learnings to become, like I think taste, I know what my taste is, and I am not producing 100% at my taste, but it's really hard to do that at like speed too. So there's like things that you have to like be okay with. Um, and so like when I was thinking about giving it to him, I was like, oh, maybe I don't do this and give it to them, right? Like maybe I just like, yeah. But I was like, all right, whatever. Let's see what happens. And so the response was overwhelming. It was like, like we were like friends, but like now it's just become like us talking all the time. And like how do I, like, one of the things that if you go to the site now, I'm gonna launch it tomorrow with them, but we also integrated an AI bot into the tool. So now you can actually go to the Ask a Marketer tab and ask it like a question of like, hey, how do I grow my podcast? And it'll give you real examples on how you can do it. And it's all and we built it this week, or I built it this weekend. And so it's like, I was thinking about adding like building things every weekend, but it's like really it's been fun just to like see how far I can stretch this idea for him.
That's beautiful, man. So what you said about chasing perfection, essentially, you know, if you chase perfection too hard, it becomes really easy to talk yourself out of it. And you decide in your mind that, oh, this guy is not going to like it. He's going to think this. He already thinks this. Who am I to blah, 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 blah. And there is, in my opinion, at least how you illustrated precisely the mental game of entrepreneurship, of helping people, because what was in your mind a story that maybe this isn't good enough became then, with verifiable proof, the nicest thing that anyone has done for this man, right? And so while you, the creator, see all the tiny little things that are not quite what you know it could be because you have vision, this other guy just sees this epic creation that didn't exist before, and he doesn't see the flaws. He sees how beautiful it is. And so I think it all comes down to a matter of perspective. And again, man, you inspired me when you did that. And, we got to chat a little bit, and you told me about this, and I watched it happen. And I was just like, dude, I think that's what life is about, like people helping people. And I'll put up like a link to this project if you're okay with that. And if there's any other projects that you would like to talk about, I would love to talk about them. But I think, what you did was you found something, you created something from nothing, basically, with an idea. And now you have a thing to build with someone else, because they're like, oh, whoa, let's do this. And now you have an area to focus on. And then at a certain point, you'll be able to focus on something else. But I like what you said, because I'm doing the same thing this year. Pick something to focus on and drive it to completion. And that's something that I didn't do in the past. I used to pick up projects constantly and then talk myself out of them. And for all of the reasons, right? It's not perfect. And every week when I click publish on my writing project, I let go of the idea of perfection and say, you know what? I spent a lot of hours making this, and it feels like it needs to, in order to click that green button and put it in the world. Could I spend another 30 hours on this? Yes. but I might drive myself crazy in the process. And I don't think it's really going to be that much better than this. I have to place the faith that you know what? My feeling is what guides me. And my feeling, I know when I'm like, it's not right. It's not right yet. Then you get it right. And it's like, okay. So do you feel that when you're working too, when you're designing something like the Marketing Tools You Should Know website? Is there a point in your design process where you're thinking like, ooh, we're close. And then like, you move something around, you change the color of a bubble, and then all of a sudden you just go, oh, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, all the time. I mean, for me, I lean more on speed than finished products.
Speed of
Right.
like iteration.
Yeah, speed of iteration. Because like what I've come to learn is that like even like all the time that you put into something, like on the other side, like people might not even care. And it's more focusing on like how fast can you get to that moment of the inflection point of like, okay, this is like something that this person cares about, and like, all right, let's like make this piece better, right? Because like you can just add a bunch of things to it, but like what if like all these things that you spent like hours of your day trying to add no one cares about, and it's just like it becomes like kind of a waste. And like I know that like I think I've worked in tech long enough to know that this like is an iterative process. It's constantly iterating. Like you look at any version one of like XYZ company or XYZ uh even like a first edit of a film, right? Like it goes through multiple edits before it like hits the screen, right? They'll do like what's it called, like small screenings of like certain like snippets, and then like try to then they'll like adjust the snippet. And and then so I think that's like kind of how I like go about my process now, where it's just like I try to separate myself from like, oh, this is great versus like, oh, what am I trying to learn here? And then like as I do that, it makes it easier to like not be such a what's the word,
Like a hyper perfectionist or
yeah,
something.
not be too perfectionist
Right.
profession yeah, not be too much of a perfectionist with it, where it's like I'm like a painter, right? Like maybe that first layer wasn't great, but then I'll just like paint another layer, and then I'll maybe throw some other touches to it. And like I think like when you look at a painter, like yeah, they know what they're doing, but like to like the like a person that's just looking at the painting, that some would say like they painted outside the lines, or the stroke looks a little bit weird here, but like it's still like you pull yourself back, there's multiple layers. and
Mm,
so um and so that's kind of like how I think about my process.
that's really beautiful, man. I think that the perfectionist who is constantly chasing perfection and then becoming discouraged because it's not perfect in their opinion and never sharing anything, that's a trope. That's a type of that's just one of the pathways. And I think that all perfectionists, to speak in broad generalizations, are on a path, I'm one of them, of learning that the perfection that they are and that they feel is the mentality that you have expressed today of always wanting to learn. That is the expression of perfectionism, in my opinion, because the willingness to learn and to recognize that I am always learning is the acceptance that I am always becoming, and I'm never a final product until I die. And so if I'm not even a final product yet, how can I put out a perfect product that is completely final, that will never need a revision? Okay, the pencil exists. Congratulations, you've got a perfect instrument that has not changed in centuries, except I don't know how long, except to go mechanical here and there, right? How can
Mm-hmm.
you expand on the pencil? Well, people make cool pencils and they write fun stuff on them, and the pencil even though it is a perfect instrument, is still always changing and evolving. And so I don't know, I kind of feel like we're just a couple of pencils at this point in a way, and that
Yeah.
I'm just trying to stay as sharp as I can so I can keep writing, and recognizing that, like, I think as long as we continue to look at the world with awe in our eyes and be inspired by that which we don't know, that quest to know, I think that's what that I think that's what perfection is, and the willingness to try. And that's who you have always been to me, is someone that showed me that you should try, because it might be scary, but if you don't try, how are you ever going to know what you're capable of?
100%. Yeah, I think I was talking to someone else about this the other day, where I lived in Southeast Asia for a little bit. I lived in Myanmar during the time when Myanmar was open. Obviously, it's not open anymore. But at the time, I was only supposed to be there for 3 months. And this goes into like, sometimes you just kind of got to go with it, and like the universe will like figure it out for you. But so I met a girl there, who would end up becoming my wife, right? But I met a girl there, and I was supposed to be there for only like 3 months. And I was like, oh, okay, 3 months, and then I'm off to Panama, because we had another project in Panama and that we're supposed to go. And so I was just like, oh, like, we'll see what happens. And sure enough, 3 months came around, and I had the opportunity to stay a little bit longer. And I ended up staying for a whole year. And then shortly after that, my wife, now, who was my girlfriend then, got into grad school, and she was like, hey, I'm going to go back to the Bay Area. Do you want to go back? And, like, at the time, like, I wasn't like ever intending to come back to the Bay Area, but I was like, oh yeah, I got this free plane ticket. I might as well just like come back with you. Right. And when I got back, I was kind of homeless, right? I didn't have a place to stay. And luckily, like, all my friends like had places to stay. I think I'd stayed at some like Mackenzie's place, like, all these different people's places at the time. And and it was just like that's like a good showing of like not knowing, but the universe will help you through it, because like it's like you kind of got to trust in it, and then like just lean into what it's telling you, and then see where it goes, right? And yeah, so I think like sure that some people would say like that's not the like the most that's not the best way of looking at it, right? Like, oh, like, don't you want to know a little bit more about, like, don't you want to have it a little bit more structured? But sometimes even if you structure it, you just don't know at the end of the day if that's really how it's going to play out. Like, I thought I would never come back to the Bay Area, right? But and so sometimes you just got to trust that everything will work itself out. And that's how I think I look at things, right? Where it's just like, I lean into the things I'm interested in, but like, we'll see how it works out. But as long as I like do my best every day, the path will open up as we go, kind of thing.
Where do you feel that inspiration? Is it in your body? Is it in your mind? When you find something and at that point it's time to trust myself, that the universe is going to deliver the people, whatever the unknown factors that I could use to talk myself out of doing this will be taken care of if I place my faith in myself. Where does that come from within you? Is it a thought?
I don't know. It's just like maybe the winds, right? I don't know. I just like, I do feel gravitational pulls towards things, and like sometimes I'll just trust that and lean into it.
Like a feeling.
Yeah, like, I mean, not to get very woo woo, like, right, but like the night that like I had the opportunity to stay in Southeast Asia, it was like a full moon, right? And so I was taking the call with the person that wanted me to stay, and I was like looking at the moon, and it was like bright, and it was like full, and it was like looking down on me like, what are you gonna do, right? And then I was like, all right, I guess this is me staying. And sure enough, I like end up walking around my neighborhood, and I walk towards the pier, and there was like this massive carnival at the pier, which was like a full moon party, and it was just like the first time I've ever experienced that. So it was just like almost like the universe celebrating the fact that like you're just leaning in and seeing where it plays. And so like, you could say that that's synchronicities happening with like the decisions that you make. Um, but yeah, I don't know where it comes from. It's just this deep feeling that I get, and I think I've always had it. Even when I moved to California as a kid, like I was working this program during the summer, and I had the opportunity, like, I almost didn't go to college, right? I had the opportunity to go live in California, to go stay with a family member, to go to school in Santa Barbara, and I was really meditating on like what should I do, right? Because like what I knew at that time was all I've known, and I've never like taken the chance, kind of. And I was like, give me a sign. And sure enough, I was like working this program, and I went. Then this sounds silly, but like I went into, like, we had like this like lunchroom for all the like the teachers and stuff like that. And so I was in the lunchroom, and sure enough, there was this bowl of like fortune cookies. And I was like, oh, fortune cookies. And it's funny is because like before the program, they take you to a Chinese restaurant as like kind of the thing, right? And at that Chinese restaurant, they didn't have fortune cookies, which was kind of weird, right? Usually after a Chinese restaurant, you like expect fortune cookies. So
Yeah.
sure enough, the week after, we were at this school, and there's a big bowl of fortune cookies, and they never appeared ever again after the fact. But so I like grabbed some, and all of them was just like pointing into like, you should like, you know follow your destiny, or like, just like, that probably wasn't the quote or anything like that, but a lot of the fortune, like everyone I opened was like, you know bet on yourself, make the decision, like, like all these different things that kind of like pushed me to just be like, all right, I'm gonna buy a ticket, I'm gonna go live my life, and then the rest is kind of history. And so uh, maybe it's like, try like, you're looking for a sign, and you're like, you can get it anywhere, but sometimes I think it's just that like the universe is trying to tell you a story, or like tell you, like, give you like extra oomph, or like extra push, but you got to be open to it. And yeah, so I think that's where it's at. I mean, sometimes it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just leaning in.
Mm. You just said something that lit my whole body up, and the universe telling you a story. And I think that because we're in the world of polarity, night, day, light, dark, up, down, hot, cold, not only is it trying to tell you a story, it's trying to tell a story through you. And when you feel that feeling that says you can do it, and then you get a little scared, and then you open up a fortune cookie that says you can do it. I've experienced similar things to that. People would think I'm crazy, some of the decisions that I've made based on the validation that I've got from fortune cookies as well. Yeah. Not kidding you. They always find me when I need a little bit of extra love. And so I guess like it really feels a lot like, and I hadn't thought about this until you said the thing about the story, the universe itself wants to tell other people to rise within themselves. And by you doing it, you give it the ability to express that to the world. It tells its story of triumphant becoming and victory from the guy who had an open mind and never stopped trying to make the world a more beautiful place. But if you get in the way and you twist the story that it's telling you to inspire you to then become its instrument of storytelling in the world, if you twist it up too hard, you end up doing nothing. And then you get bored. And then you just attack other people online because they don't share your boredom with you. And I think in today's world again, more and more people are starting to take ownership of that. And so guys like you, this has been so amazing to hear you talk about this, because I feel like you're about to give permission to a lot of people who are still in that mode where they're like, yeah, but here's the story I'm getting, but it's a little bit scary. So man, thank you for that inspiration for me and for everyone. I mean, you're doing it. You're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Um, yeah, no, ain't no way to do it but to do it, right? So,
Amen, bro. Well, let me do a hard shift here. This is still a new venture, and I'm working on, how can we make these as interesting as possible? And having known you for so long, I can tell you that I can tell my audience that you and I both have a passion for food. We love to cook. And you are, again, one of the people who you cooked some things for me that were so good that I was just like, I have to learn how to do this. I have to become a better cook. And I've always been a little bit afraid of trying to cook Vietnamese dishes. And so I have to tell you that one time at your house, you made pho, and it was hands down the best pho that I have ever had. And because we are all humans here and we all got to eat, now that I live in a place where there is no food, I have to cook everything. Otherwise, you're eating stuff that I don't want to eat, that I can't eat anymore. And so I want to make pho, and it's been a long time since I even thought about that. And I'm curious if you would share your tips and tricks on your pho recipe. How do I do this? Because why am I so scared of cooking broth? Why am I scared of soup? I don't know.
yeah.
But I need to know, how does Matlock make pho? And yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I think the first step is like getting a whole chicken. Like usually you can do it with oxtail. Like you could throw oxtail in it as well. I'll also like after I'll send you this packet, but like there's this packet that has like star anise, um, cinnamon, cardamom, like all these other things. So you have to like
I have
oh, you have all? Okay,
got
cool,
them all
cool.
in my kitchen.
Okay, so what you want to do is you want to essentially wash your chicken with like coarse salt. So like then rinse that off and then throw it in a pot and then fill it with hot water, right? Or fill it with water, not hot water. And then boil it for like 10 minutes. Dump out the water, clean the chicken because this is gonna like you want to parboil it first so you can like get all the impurities out.
Okay.
And then after that, you want to put the chicken back in, fill up the pot with water again, get it to a boil, and then simmer it for 30 minutes. Take the chicken out, debone it, throw the chicken back in, and then just like simmer it for like 5 hours, 5, 6, like the longer the better, but with the packet of like the cardamom and everything like that. And then like usually people say like at this point like put salt and like fish sauce and sugar in. I just wait till the end, like towards the end, just so that like right now you're dealing with like really deep broth, like a deep hearty broth, and then you can like put a little fish sauce in, usually like a fourth cup, put like a little bit of sugar in, and then like put like a couple tablespoons of salt. And then this is where like you like as you get better at like tasting the flavor that you're trying to get to, this is where the fun is, where you like put a little bit more salt to like adjust the flavor. And and then like fast forward to like a couple hours after that, you'll have like the base of the broth ready, and then you can just like make it however you want, with the rice noodles and lemon on the side, some basil, and then also bean sprouts and things like that.
I didn't know about the chicken. I remember when you did it with oxtail. And so that's kind of
Hmm.
what I had in my head. But what's interesting of all places, man, there I was turned on to a market in a place called Sioux City, Iowa, that is basically like Sunset Super.
Oh wow,
And
really?
you wouldn't think that that exists, but it does. And
That's
when
so
I walked
cool.
in, I was like, oh my God, I am home again. Thank you. And so I've just been going up there from where I live, not super far away from that. And I have filled my kitchen with ingredients that I didn't know where to find before and have been
Mhm.
exploring more and more. And pho is the next thing. So I want to do that this week, and I'll have to send you some pictures and whatnot because I really
Yeah.
appreciate the advice. And it's easier for me to get a chicken than it is to get oxtail, but I know where to go to
Yes.
get oxtail now.
Well, so here, this is what I've learned from like enough times hacking it that I don't love chicken broth per se. Like it's like it's just a lot easier to get the flavor out of than
Mm,
like a meat based broth. And so what I do is I'll mix both chicken, like the chicken can like do a lot of the hard work with some oxtail to like give it a little bit of a meatier flavor, and then just do it like that. And that's like really helped me get a better body on the broth itself.
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So you can hack it with like a little bit of oxtail rather because like like oxtail's expensive. I mean, I don't know how much it is where you're at, but like it's like 20 something dollars for like half a pound or something
Like a
like
little
that,
couple
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And then like, a chicken's gonna be like it's more bang for your buck, you would say.
Yeah.
And throw some oxtail in and you still get that flavor that you're looking for, and so that's just my hack around it.
Okay. Yeah. The like oxtail effervescence, but the like you said, the chicken does the hard work.
Hmm.
Cool, man.
Hmm.
That is I appreciate that. I miss your food so much. You also made pad thai one time that I haven't had better pad thai than that. And
Oh
I went
yeah.
through my own little adventures in pad thai and I got it pretty good, but I never got it quite like you did. So yeah, I miss your cooking, man. I miss your presence in my life. And this was kind of a sneaky way for me to tell you that I love you and I want to talk to you more again.
Oh man, thanks. Well, I love you too, man. Like thank you for having me on the show. And yeah, really excited to see the experience take off.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming and doing this. I appreciate your willingness to be on the show. Um, and I appreciate maybe in the future I'll ask you to come back on. Maybe we could just do an episode like straight up about cooking because
Oh,
we're
that'd
all
be
human.
fun.
We all got to eat, and I've learned so much from you in the kitchen. I want to apply your lessons here, and then next time we'll talk about that.
All right, count me in.
All right, bro. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, for being you, for being such an inspirational character in the Earth game. I appreciate you, brother. And I'm honored to get to have this type of beautiful discussion with you today. The rest of my day is about to be the best day ever.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on, and I'm excited to, to be a part of it. So, all
Right on, brother. I'll talk to you
right,
soon.
bye.
Peace. So there you have him, my friends, Mr. Matt Locke and Mr. Juice Man. Hey, Mr. Juice Man, what do you think? Do you want to be on the camera with me? Thank you so much for tuning in. What did you think about our conversation? Let us know down in the comments. Drop a heart on YouTube. Subscribe to the new YouTube. Hey, it sure beats me asking you for paid subscriptions on Substack constantly, right? Well, Mr. Matt Locke, thank you for coming on the show. You are a treat and a treasure. I really, really hope that your movie goes well. If you ever need help with any kind of writing stuff, please let me know. I'd be happy to help out in any way that I can. Proofreading, whatever. I got a visitor here that really, really wants just some attention right now. Oh, yeah, we just want attention. We got attention. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, hey, it's really hard to focus on doing a proper outro when you have a puppy that's just screaming for love. And that's exactly what I have right now. So I'm going to drop links below for Matt's information, where you can find him, where you can find the Ask a Marketer tool, and where you can find both of us on Twitter. So check the description on YouTube. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you next Wednesday with another episode of The Human Experience. Peace, my friends. Live well. Get a dog. Get a dog. I guess that's all I have to say for today.
Hey, Mr. Juice Man, what do you think? Hey, Mr. Juice Man.
Well, I love Juice and Juice loves me, and together we love you. Yeah, you're the coolest human that I think I ever knew. Well, I love Juice and Juice loves me, and together we love you. Oh, you're a pretty cool human. Yeah, that is true.